Why do so many Muslims hate the United States? What has America done to alienate so many people in the Muslim world? They'll tell you it's just the Islamic militants who are angry. But don't you believe it? This rage strikes a chord with millions who would never dream of burning the American flag. And there's a lot more to it than just bombing Afghanistan. This is Pakistan, but feelings here are pretty much the same as throughout the Islamic world. No one wants to call the military action in Afghanistan the war against Islam. But if you're a Muslim, it sometimes feels like that. I'm a Muslim. I have faith in God and I live by the Quran. Unfortunately, there are people in the West who think this makes me some kind of a religious extremist. But it's simply not true. The fundamentals of Islam are justice, compassion, tolerance, charity, and above all, humility before God. There's nothing in the Quran that's against progress and modernity. We also live, love, and enjoy ourselves like anyone else. This is a concert for peace at Islamabad's Women's College. The students come mostly from privileged middle-class backgrounds. This might seem a strange place to start my journey, but if you're looking for Muslims whom you would expect to sympathize with America, this is where they should be. The star tonight is Salman Ahmed and his group Janoon. He's Pakistan's #1 pop star. He was educated in America, but he certainly doesn't like what the Americans are doing in Afghanistan. How do they feel towards the United States?
You know what? The youth of Pakistan loves American pop culture. They love films. They know who Julia Roberts is. They know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is or who Andre Agassi is. And they love these guys, you know? But at the same time, they have a fear that the United States government is out to, it's like a bull in a china shop.
If people who basically like the American lifestyle think that, take it as a warning. Backstage are some of Salman's friends and other performers. They're middle class, and like most young people, they're liberals, not fundamentalists.
Terrorism that has been going on in Palestine, in Israel, in Chechnya, in Bosnia, it's been going on for years, and suddenly everyone's talking about it as if it was something new. And it's almost as if one white life is far more precious than thousands of brown or black lives.
Not in America, we are not white, we are like in this third world other countries, so they just feel that they can basically come in, use us as they please, and then when they want, just discard us and walk across the border, go somewhere else and do exactly as they please over there, and they think they can just run everyone's lives like this.
I am sick. For the last 29 years, I've been listening Uncle Sam telling me what to do. You have to do this. You have. No, please, just leave us alone.
They're practicing this is state terrorism. I mean, what else
this
would
is
you call
imperialist terrorism.
Underlying all the complaints is a feeling that America only cares when its own people or its own interests are threatened.
It's always been a double standard that we've been shown. There should have been a just policy as far as terrorism goes. We do not promote terrorism. As Muslims, we are against terrorism. We basically speak of tolerance, the most important thing. And I think Christianity and Judaism also speak of that, but we don't see that happening at all in practical life.
I must say I was surprised at the militant mood of these young cosmopolitan women. If they feel that way about America, imagine how those with no clue about the Western way of life feel. I'm traveling north to the city of Peshawar, close to the border with Afghanistan, to meet a religious leader. In this part of the world, clerics can be as important as politicians. I'm here to see Maulana Muhammad Amir. He's a very well-known personality in Peshawar. His opinions are widely respected and always provoke discussion in this part of the country.
दुश्मनी को तो साबित करके फिर हमला करते ना.
How could you attack a whole nation without providing proofs, taking them to a court of law, following the dictates of justice?
ये अमेरिका वाले बुश साहब जो हैं,
just by allegations and saying we have information, you've attacked a whole nation. He says it's injustice. That's the main reason, their lack of justice. He gave example about Satan not bowing in front of the Almighty God. And he says what the Almighty hates the most is arrogance. And what he sees in the United States is sheer arrogance. It's not easy to get everyone against you. But I guess it's the arrogance, you know. I think it's what a human being hates most is the lack of humility in dealing with them.
The Americans were never really liked in Pakistan anyway.
I think this is one aspect, the way the US has behaved. You know, to tell Pakistan either you're with us or you're against us. And we'll put you in the Stone Age. This is an anti-war demonstration in Peshawar by a group of women and children. The protest is very much against American arrogance, but is also driven by a sense of injustice. Justice is intrinsic to the Quran. No one questions that America is the most powerful nation on earth. The issue is whether they should arrogantly be judge, jury, and executioner of what is right.
This is just an excuse that he is going to attack only Afghanistan. No, he is after Muslim, he is after Islam.
It's a gift for the international press. There's far more mileage in stories that emphasize extremes and differences between cultures instead of what they have in common. The net result is often more misunderstanding about the true nature of Islam. It's most unfortunate that most people in the United States do not understand what Islam is. For them, Islam equals fundamentalism. But for the majority of Pakistanis, this is not the case. For them, Islam gives them direction in life. It gives them moral values that has sustained the family system in this part of the world. Islam means coming to terms with a very harsh reality. The majority of the population live below the poverty line in this part of the world. Islam also means dignity for a lot of Muslims. Dignity because once you pledge obedience to the one God, it frees you from worshipping the false gods. Gods like the material God. It also means that you believe in the hereafter. And people who believe in the hereafter lead their lives differently to those who believe that this is the be-all and the end-all. Islam has been the dominant force here for over 1,000 years. At a time when England was wrestling with William the Conqueror, and the United States didn't even exist, this was a mighty empire. Its descendants today may be vastly poorer than Americans, but this decline has nothing to do with Islam. It doesn't mean our traditions and our beliefs are in some way inferior. It's the feeling that Americans believe in their own cultural superiority and the fear that our own way of life will be overwhelmed that leads to a reaction against them. The roots of this resentment against America go back to the days of colonialism. They have inherited a legacy of hatred that was once aimed specifically at Western powers, whose empires dominated most of the Muslim world. If this seems unfair because America has never had an empire, then look again. Nowadays, many feel that we are still under the control of the West, but by proxy, and America is seen to be at the heart of it. Humayun Gohar is a political commentator who writes extensively on development economics.
After decolonization after the Second World War, we moved into the era of from physical military colonization into a more sophisticated kind of economic colonization. And when the IMF came into being, the International Monetary Fund, these instruments became instruments of colonization, of domination. I mean, after all, what is the IMF? It is basically a bank to help countries, especially in the third world, overcome immediate balance of payment deficit problems. Now, they have been lending willy-nilly to third world governments, knowing that those were corrupt governments, knowing that they were undemocratic governments, knowing that this money would never be returned, it will be misapplied, misused, in some cases even embezzled. IMF is seen as an instrument of economic colonization, as an instrument by which America can continue to politically dominate the world, but through economic domination. The effect that it has had on people's lives, why don't you go and talk to the farmers? Go to the bazaars, talk to the ordinary shopkeeper. He'll tell you exactly what I'm telling you, probably in, a much more colorful language.
I decided to do just that. I took a quick tour of the street merchants and traders in the bazaars in Lahore to see what Humayun Gohar meant. The amazing thing is that anywhere else in the Western world, the majority of the population would not even know what the IMF is. Yet in this part of the world, even the poorest farmer, the poor shopkeeper, the average person, all knew what the IMF was. He's not even referring to IMF as a separate entity. He says IMF is really America. And America causes us, it tries to control us, controls our economy through the IMF, and they keep increasing these rates, the utility rates, and the people are getting crushed by them. Of course, if you borrow money, you have to pay it back with interest. But people like Siddiq, who I used to play cricket with, is one of the millions who think America uses money as an imperial tool. He's saying that IMF is perceived as a tool of the United States, and United States uses the IMF to promote its worldwide agenda, whether it's economic or political. Out in the countryside, where the vast bulk of the Pakistan population lives, the issue is one of survival. 70% of Pakistan's tax revenue goes into debt servicing. Pressure from the IMF forces the government to frequently raise utility prices. These are the people who suffer the most.
वो पता नहीं कहाँ जाते हैं, कहाँ खर्च किए जाते हैं, तो उनका बोझ हमारे ऊपर ही पड़ता है.
See, he's saying that a liter of diesel has gone up from 11 rupees to last year to 20 rupees this year. And, the tractors, everything needs the fuel. And he says the impact it has had is that it has impoverished us, and we don't know where these loans which come into Pakistan, we don't know where they are spent, but we are left with the burden of paying these loans through these increased prices. See, he's saying it's devastating what's happened. He's saying that, look, the costs have gone up so dramatically in the past 2-3 years. He says that we just cannot even cultivate our fields anymore. We cannot even afford to go to the doctor because if the doctor charges 100 rupees, we have nothing left to eat. And he says you can see in this part of the world, in the farming community, that people are suffering through more hardships now than they have been ever before they can remember. The loans are meant to be short-term, but the effects are long-term. Pressure of meeting IMF conditions, along with endemic corruption, has caused the state education system to more or less collapse. What you're seeing are the children of the majority of population of Pakistan. These are the sort of schools they go to. This is the sort of education they have, which is learning by rote. There's no proper teaching, no individual attention. You see all sorts of age groups sitting there, the most elementary as well as the boys from the higher classes. They're all bracketed in one, and the teacher's supposed to teach them all at the same time. And this is the biggest problem the country is facing. Here you have the majority masses, semi-literate, semi-educated. Even when they'll finish these schools, they'll come out virtually uneducated. It makes me feel very sad for Pakistan, because here are all these children who will never ever have the opportunity of fulfilling their immense God-given potential in life. As the state system has crumbled over the past 20 years, the vacuum created has been filled by others. The poor are turning to the religious schools. They are called madrasas, and they are educating almost 1 million students. Some are excellent. Others are a breeding ground for an intolerant version of Islam. They are mostly run on charity, and not surprisingly, their influence is strongest where neglect and poverty are most pronounced. The Imam here told me most of his students had left to join the Taliban in Afghanistan. And some of the remaining boys have also signed up to go. The entire Muslim world, and he said including himself and all religious people, everyone condemned what happened in Washington, New York. And now they have, without establishing the guilt, the proof, they have started attacking Afghanistan. He visits Afghanistan a lot. A lot of his students have been are there in positions of authority, and he says you cannot imagine the way those people have been destroyed by war. Says the Quran says that when you have differences, sort them out with wisdom and compromise, and do not resort to what is happening in Afghanistan. In other words, do not resort to aggression. And he feels that the effects will be devastating. The Imam's students feel that America has double standards. There's one way of dealing with the people of Afghanistan, and there's another rule where Muslims are facing injustice.
America should not think about only Afghanistan. There is not fight only in Afghanistan. We should think about Kashmir, about Chechnya, about Bosnia, and Palestine, and so on. Until those problems are not solved between Muslim and Americans, Jews, Christians, I think these cases will go on. Until peace does not come in Palestine, Muslims are protesting against infidels.
Every Friday,